It's mock draft review. We did a mock draft over at Bleacher Report, and it's time to break it all down. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, first two picks off the board, but Cam Ward isn't QB1. We're going to discuss this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast. Cover your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. You know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, man. And the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. On today's show, we have Bleacher Report. Our guy, Damian Parson, coming through with a mock draft. We're going to go through the mock draft, talk about a couple landing spots, the QB landing spots, first round tight ends. I don't know if that means we have 1, 2, or 3, right? And then we're going to wrap this thing up with the best defensive fits. DP, let's get into these quarterbacks, man. We know the draft order at the top. Let's get into these quarterbacks.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. At the top, Keith, we already know the top two teams right now with the draft. The top three is already set. Tennessee Titans, the Cleveland Browns at number 2, and then the New York Giants at pick 3. In our mock over at Bleacher Report, the top 2 picks went to quarterbacks. The Tennessee Titans select Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado, and the Cleveland Browns select Cam Ward out of Miami. Keith, now everybody who knows, Shedeur Sanders is my QB2. I have Cam Ward as QB1 right now, but Shedeur Sanders came off the board first, and it's simply because of team fit. When you look at what Brian Callahan's offense has looked like in the past and its best running, go back to Cincinnati. Cool Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? Slinging the rock, open concepts, doing his thing. But when Joe Burrow went down, I believe that was 2022, Jake Browning stepped in. Everybody remember him from quarterback from Washington. Didn't have the height, the speed, the arm strength, nothing like that. But he ran this offense extremely well, to the point there was even some fans chattering that Joe Burrow was overrated. That stuff was outrageous. But nonetheless, that's just how well the offense ran, even with Jake Browning at quarterback. And when you get to Tennessee, it looks vastly different with a guy like Will Levis, who's more of a vertical, aggressive, shot-making quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is a better fit for this offense because he can do the similar things as Jake Browning, as Joe Burrow, sit in the pocket. If he's, especially with protection, you give him weapons like a Calvin Ridley. You add some more pieces there. You got a run game. He doesn't have to shoulder every bit of the load, but he can make the on-time throws. He can attack underneath, get it to the first read, to the open guy. And then when you need to take a shot down the field, he can take the shot down the field. But it's not like Will Levis where I love to take the deep shots. That's where my jam. That's my jam. That's my thing. I think Shedeur Sanders is a better fit than Cam Ward for this offense, where I think Cam Ward's a better fit in Cleveland. Also, because of the weather that Cleveland has, you have to deal with. I know, Shedeur played in Colorado. Cleveland deals with that cold weather. They have wind, different things like that. I'd rather a guy with that supreme type of arm talent that be able to drive the ball in those type of conditions, especially in the AFC North, where there are no domes. I don't believe. I think every single team plays outside, and it's bad weather come November, December from that point forward. So those are the top 2 quarterbacks, and that's kind of why they fell the way they did. BR's QB1 is Cam Ward, but Shedeur Sanders made the best fit at the first pick overall.
Yeah, so from a scheme perspective, right? And I think we talked about this like beginning of the year, right? When Will Levis got drafted, when they hired the head coach, right? And I think I brought up, I was just like, I don't know if this is going to fit just from my time knowing Joe Burrow, right? And then knowing what I've seen at Kentucky of Will Levis, right? That this is not a good fit. But I do agree. I like the Shedeur Sanders pick. I have a question. What separates Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders for you for Cam to be your clear number one at this juncture?
Of course, arm talent is two different levels of arm talent. The type of throws that Cam can make, Shedeur doesn't have that type of arm. Shedeur's arm is not. It's still good. It's just Cam's arm is on a different level than Shedeur's. He can make those drive throws. He can really put it between past the ear hole into those key holes of the defense in between tight coverage, especially against zone. But in the middle of the field, he can drive those type of balls. Also down the field, he's a better shot taker down the field. Also can stretch the field, extend past the safeties, different things like that. He can kill in the 20 yards and deeper area, but also mobility. Like Shedeur is a functional athlete, but he is an extremely slow starter as an athlete. Like this is a guy like he's not going to immediately break out of the pocket, and he has to kind of gear up, right? It's like a car in the south in the cold. Like, yeah, you gotta heat it up a little bit before you start driving it if it's 30 below. With Cam is a better athlete than him. Cam gets out of the pocket quicker. Cam has a better pocket presence than Shedeur. Shedeur still does the dropping back 15. We saw it in the bowl game. He took a sack and got him out of field goal range against BYU, still doing that same stuff of not feeling pressure, drifting towards pressure, drifting too far back. So for me, it's like even in the pocket, I like Cam Ward better than also the ceiling. You know, I'm a big ceiling guy. I like guys that has a lot more to their game than just, okay, I got to put you in the right situation with the right weapons, right offensive line. I think both of them can benefit from NFL coaching to coach some stuff out of them. Those bad habits, Shedeur, stop dropping so far back in the pocket, step up and climb, trust your tackles, stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. You played at Colorado. You didn't have a great offensive line. It created those habits. A good coach in the NFL can coach him out of that, hopefully. And with Cam Ward is just telling him, hey, you don't have to take the 3-point shot every single time. You don't have to take the game-winning shot every time. Let your playmakers make plays for you. And in the NFL, you won't have to carry the load and be Superman for us. So for me, that's why Cam Ward is higher. Shedeur is more accurate when he's on time than Cam Ward is, and that's because he's more of the pure pocket passer type. But when I need off script, on script, things like that, I get way more of that with Cam Ward.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go through. I know we have a couple minutes before we have to transition, right? Just the rest of you talked about the top 10. I look at this: the New York Giants with Travis Hunter, right? That's something I haven't seen before. I don't know how I feel about that one, right? Because we all know that the elephant in the room is not even an elephant. I don't know what's more obvious than an elephant, but like they need a quarterback, right? And so what do they do there? And then it's like, okay, does another corner necessarily solve their problems, right? And I don't know if they try to go offensive line or something like that. I thought that pick was interesting. And then the New England Patriots with Will Johnson. I like Will Johnson. I think he's this. And I guess if you go by just best player available, you just take him and you have two lockdown corners. I think it'll be interesting, though, with the focus centered around Drake May, right? And how do you improve him? Obviously, the last position that could probably help him is corner, right? But I like the tandem of Will Johnson. I think it's been of the top corners I've seen in college football right over the years. It's been Patrick Surtain, Derek Stingley, Christian Gonzalez, and Will Johnson. I think those are the four that have been the premier athletes at the position. The pick I do like is the Jacksonville Jaguars getting Mason Graham. I do like that one a lot. I think you pair him up with Trayvon Walker. Now you have a true defensive identity, right? To let those guys like Devin Floyd flow around and figure stuff out. And then I do also like the New York Jets with Penn State. I thought that was a good pick. I have a question. Was there any conversation with the Carolina Panthers with them taking a wide receiver instead of Malachi Starks?
It was brought up. We had that conversation, and it was just like, man, we didn't feel like there was a receiver worthy taking in that particular spot with Tator McMillan off the board. And I was like, listen, their biggest issue right now is defense. Unfortunately for them, Abdul Carter and Mason Graham went right before their pick, so they couldn't get the two blue chip defensive linemen that they would have absolutely loved. But just being able to get a difference maker in the secondary, that they have J.C. Horn. They'll get Derek Brown back off of injury next year, who's an all-pro talent at defensive tackle. Now they got to get somebody in that secondary to help out J.C. Horn, and we all know what type of talent Malachi Starks is.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. Let's keep this thing going. And coming up next, we're going to talk about those tight end landing spots, first round tight ends. How many do we have in this mock draft? And then where did they go? We're going to have that conversation coming up next.
From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Guys, you can go to the website and find your favorite betting lines around your favorite teams or league. NBA, NFL, doesn't really matter. FanDuel has it. To get in on the action, just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Again, $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. And to get in on the action, go to FanDuel.com to join today. So make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Tight end landing spots in our mock draft over from Bleacher Report, first of the new year. At pick 14, Keith, the Indianapolis Colts selecting Tyler Warren out of Penn State, the do-it-all tight end. You gotta figure out that position, right? And when you look at that Colts offense, they don't have a lot of easy options. It's crazy. I'm watching different NFL offenses, and I'm like, man, that's an easy option. That's an easy underneath option. That's a easy between the hashes option. And when you look at that Colts offense, outside of Josh Downs, they don't have that. They don't have reliability at that tight end position. Those guys drop passes. They're not where they're supposed to be. Jelani Wood is their most talented guy, but at 6'7", 265 or whatever he weighs, he's dealt with those hamstring injuries, and those soft tissue injuries consistently linger. So they got to get an upgrade there. Tyler Warren isn't our tight end one. It's Colston Loveland, but Tyler Warren at 6'6", 260, 250, ball skills, good athlete, run after the catch ability. You plop him in the middle of this offense with Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs, MPJ, and Alec Pierce. He's got an opportunity to really roam that shallow to intermediate, that short to intermediate portions of the field, especially between the hashes, and be an easy option for Anthony Richardson. Really get him into a rhythm. I think this is a guy you want to, even though you have all these receivers, I would honestly look at him and Josh Downs as the guys I want to get the ball to early. You want to get the passing game like really working early on. I want to get the quick passing game going to those two guys. Yeah, I can get my possession shots to MPJ. I can get my deep shot to Alec Pierce later on, but I want to get the offense going early with those two guys, Josh Downs and Tyler Warren. And then the second tight end, who's actually our tight end one, is Colston Loveland. And Colston Loveland fell down the board just a little bit. He went to Denver. You're talking about putting him in that offense with Bo Nix, who's led the Denver Broncos to the playoffs and everything. Colston Loveland, 6'5", 245. And again, a lot of the consensus, Keith, is that Tyler Warren is tight end one. I advise everybody to please go watch the tape of Colston Loveland. When you put them, the tail of the tape, athleticism, agility, route running, separation, ball skills, hands, all of that is in favor of a Colston Loveland and everything. So it's like you're pulling the hairs on which one goes first. But Colston Loveland with Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims taking a step he did this year, wide receiver. Maybe Troy Franklin takes a step in year 2 next year as well. You want to make this offense as well-rounded as possible. And Colston Loveland can play inline tight end, H-back. He can also line up in the slot and out wide. He's a mismatch creator because sometimes you get him going, you're going to see. Same thing Texas did against Michigan. They threw Jahdae Barron and told Jahdae Barron to cover Colston Loveland. And that's what type of tight end that he is. He brings that the way you need to put a corner or a safety on him. I think both of those two landing spots, those are the spots I think should absolutely look at tight end in the first round. It's not too many spots that make the most sense. They say, hey, we got to take a tight end or whatever. But I think Indy, it's almost a given for me. And I think the Denver Broncos absolutely need to look at tight end early, even though this is a really good tight end class.
Yeah, well, first off, I'll say this. I agree with you on a Colston Loveland conversation. I have Colston Loveland at tight end 1, and I think that Colston Loveland is the premier guy, and I think Tylen Warren is a really good football player.
Mhm.
That's just how I feel about it. I think there's a separation, to be honest. Secondly, that's the second time you kind of mentioned that, right? And I guess just diving into the conversation for the listeners is that, with the first one you said Shedeur Sanders as quarterback, right? He went to this spot, although Cam Ward is ranked higher, right? And then now with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren went higher, even though
Mhm.
Colston Loveland is ranked higher.
Yeah.
So the conversation, I guess, when doing the mock draft, is the thought process more of, hey, we're looking scheme fit more than best player available, like taking in a more talented player? Like how is that conversation flushed out, right? Like in having the conversations and putting these guys and slotting them to certain places.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Like, you want to get you want to get the talented player, you want to get the best player available, but it's like, all right, does he fit what they do? So it's like, yeah, while I have, like the Cam Ward, I think Cam
Mhm.
Ward is he's my highest graded quarterback out of the two. But does Cam Ward is he the perfect fit for that Brian Callahan style offense? No, because he's also a vertical shot maker that loves to throw the ball 15 yards down the field. And it's like, nope, that's probably not going to fit for what Brian Callahan wants to do. So I think it's a similar thing here. I could see, and Chris Ballard, is he's brought back as a GM of the Colts. He's a different guy. The Colts fans don't really like a lot of the stuff that he does. He's going to be big in the RAS, the RAS score, and different things like that. And I think him looking at what you saw with Jelani Woods, that's that big body guy. I could see him trying to replace that with Tyler Warren, who's a better pass catcher and better mover than a Jelani Woods, and just getting a guy that they feel like, hey. And honestly, I think it's just a simple fact of Colston Loveland may slip basically because how the season went. He didn't get all the 102 targets. He didn't get quality targets at that, to where people, and I'm gonna be honest, a lot of people aren't watching the tape to know this. He's not getting quality targets. While you have Drew Aller throwing quality targets to Tyler Warren, and the offensive coordinator is actually running different things to get him freed up. I think he has shown a little bit more just by what he's able to do because of his situation. Where I look at Colston Love in the last 2 years, he's been the best tight end to me, out of these guys. Because even Tyler Warren last year, maybe he was on Penn State last year, and Theo Johnson was tight end 1 of that team. So it's like, it's at the end of the day, splitting hairs. I think Tyler Warren, also because they run the ball a lot and they use the different shotgun and pistol sets, I can see with his alignment versatility, he can line up as like fullback and do different things. That is going to play well into that, because he reminds me a little bit of Dallas Goedert, but he's more athletic. Well, Dallas Goedert was kind of athletic when he came out. He's not athletic now, but he was athletic when he came out. He reminds me a little bit of Dallas Goedert. Remember, Shane Steichen had real success with Dallas Goedert as a tight end in Philly.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And look at the rest of this. I guess picks 11 through 20, a couple of them I like. Dallas Cowboys with wide receiver Mecca Igbuka. I thought that one was rather interesting, pairing him and CeeDee Lamb together. I think the Dallas Cowboys got to figure out what they're going to do, right? We're going to be a running team or we're going to be a passing team, right? Figure one out. You have Dak Prescott. You got to pay him all that money. You need some young play callers. Looking at it, we talked about Tyler Warren with the Colts, and then the Atlanta Falcons drafting James Pierce. We'll see, right? Because they needed edge rush help for the past few years. We'll see what happens. They
got lit up by Bryce Young playing soft zone. They couldn't get pressure with 4. If they don't go defensive in and edge rush, I'm telling you right now, I'm done. I'm done with them, bro.
DP, you said that for the past few years, and they've said offensive player.
There is no reason to take offense this year. I swear to God. They can't do it.
This is going to be crazy. And it might sound like a Hail Mary type situation. I wouldn't be surprised if they go Colston Loveland here and just take another offensive. Like, it would not surprise me. They would because I watched it was a documentary that Terry Fontenot had, and I don't disagree with it all the way, right? But he talked about basically taking best player available and then letting the free agency kind of, fill out the rest of your roster, because and this is something I agree with, that draft picks hit on 50% of the time anyway, right? So like, why would you lower your chances by taking something other than best player available? But it was just a different thought. But they do need edge rush help. And I like the James Pierce situation. The Cardinals with Michael Williams, I like that. I think it could be a good situation. We just have to figure out who Michael is, right? It's last year was a lot of hype, obviously going into it and like hoping that this is the breakout year. Obviously, some injuries are concerned. We know the athletic traits
against Notre Dame, kids. I don't know if you noticed, he was playing like some 3-tech.
Yeah,
like, he was playing like interior, and I was like,
we just talked about this on a staff call, the Draft Network, and I was like, between Georgia and Texas A&M, they make the scouting process so difficult for these defensive linemen. Like, what
they
are
really
we
do,
doing, right? Like, you watching
really
Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart with Texas A&M, and they playing zero tech. They lined up at edge rusher. They playing stack linebacker. It's like, can we just put them in one spot? But DP, let's keep this thing going in Florida, man. What are we going to talk about? The best defensive fits, right? Defensive players. We think this is a defensive draft. What are the best fits that we like coming from this mock draft?
It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With PrizePicks, you can simply pick more or less on player stats, like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps you lower bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. Keith, one of my favorite and one of the best defensive fits, in my opinion, came at pick 17. The Cincinnati Bengals getting Walter Nolan for the defensive tackle from Ole Miss. This is a team that needs to improve the defense all around, right? Whether it's D-line, pass rush, no matter what. And Walter Nolan gives me that kind of Geno Atkins vibes, where he's not going to be the 6'6", 315-pound, 34, 35-inch arm guy that's just like the super prototype. But he's so good at everything. Stopping the run, hand usage, quickness off the ball, play strength, can collapse the pocket. But he just knows how to work the edges and shoulders of interior offensive linemen. And you think of, if they can keep Trey Hendrickson, can we get Miles Murphy on the field, who you drafted in the first round 2 years ago? Can we get him developed? And just like Joe Burrow and that offense has done their job. Now, they fired their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, it's crazy because he was like 2 years ago, he was a head coaching candidate. Like, you got to get this defense back on track. And I think Walter Nolan will be a big get for them. I feel like we've are probably some of the highest people on Walter Nolan in the draft space, because I haven't seen a lot of people talk much about him. I don't know why, but I don't see a lot of people talk much about him. But I really love his game, and I think he could be an instant impact player for that Cincinnati Bengals defensive line.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, DP, and with Walter Nolan, I feel the same way, right? Because I put him in the first round of some of my mock drafts, and then I feel like I'm the only one. right? I just feel like I'm by myself. Like, am I the only one that likes this guy, right? And you just kind of alone, right? It's just a lonely process. But I agree with you. I like Walter Nolan. I was just about to say, I'm like, man, that would have been really good to see Michael there also to go to Cincinnati, but he went the pick before. But continue to look at some of these defensive prospects, DP. There are a couple interesting landing spots. The Tampa Bay Bucks going with Jalen Walker. I like that one too. The Bucks can use some juice, right? It's been since Shaq Barrett, and I think he's coming back now. I know he retired, had some couple family things that popped up. And then I think he's coming back for the playoffs, I believe. So, but Jalen Walker to the Tampa Bay Bucks, talking about giving your defensive identity post. And not post. I don't think Levante David he's still on the team, right? But he's just getting a little bit older, right? It used to be the tandem of Levante.
He's an impending free agent. Him and KJ Britt, they're two starting backers.
Yeah, and I like KJ Britt a lot too. I think he's a good middle linebacker. But just giving you a defensive identity, it seems like Vita Vea is continually, he's gotten older, right? And so they need somebody, a young guy with some juice that's going to bring some intensity to that defense. So I definitely like that one as far as a defensive fit.
Yeah, Keith, I think especially with his ability to play off-ball backer, then walk down onto the edge and be just a Tasmanian devil off the edge, I think that's just a great fit for him. Even especially, you look at a situation you want to bring back Levante David for sure, and you let him mentor and tutor a Jalen Walker as an off-ball backer. And like I said, now you got yourself a versatile piece to just kind of be that chess piece for you. Another defensive fit I like was the Green Bay Packers getting cornerback Benjamin Morrison. We know he had the hip injury and everything, but I had Will Johnson as my highest graded corner outside of like Travis Hunter. Those were my top two. Actually, I think he was still my highest graded corner, but Benjamin Morrison is the best pure man-to-man corner. That guy that just fluidity, smoothness, guy that can mirror and match guys, great feet in terms of being able to stay on his toes, can move with guys laterally, stay in the hip pocket. He's like a defensive gnat. He's annoying. He's that type of corner, and you're just hoping that, okay, the hip checks out. He's able to come back, be healthy, and have a long career and be able to make plays. But the Philadelphia Eagles not going with a Georgia Bulldog, Keith, but getting Mike Green from Marshall. Like, a lot of people don't know that name, but please get familiar with it.
Let's talk about Mike Green, because I have an opinion, but I also seen mixed reviews on him, right? I've seen people think he's a top 20 prospect. I've seen some people put him in the 4th, 5th round, right? And so I probably fall somewhere in between that. I would probably lean more 2nd roundish, right? But I want to know what's your take, and what was the conversation around Mike Green and his upside for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I think, the Eagles like to take those athletic kind of those guys that have a high ceiling that they can work with and develop. With Mike Green, I think he's listed at like weight-wise, I think it's like 245, somewhere in there.
Yep.
So it's like you want to, get him into an NFL weight program. Not that he's poorly built, like he's got a sturdy build to him, but it's like there's still a little room, I think, in his frame where you can add a couple. Yeah. Add some weight to him, add some functional strength to be a 3-down player, like to handle the run game assignments better. But like as a pass rusher, I think this guy has a really good bag to be able to get into the backfield a lot. And I think they have multiple guys that should be free agents. Brandon Graham is going to be retired. He's retiring, right? He's coming up. He's injured. His contract expires. Josh Sweat's contract is expiring. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. So getting a guy that's toolsy, quick, athletic, got some guy athleticism to him that knows how to win one-on-one. So when you look at him, it's crazy. You look at him and Nolan Smith. If you say, okay, who's the better pass rusher as a prospect? It was Mike Green. Who's the better physical specimen in terms of full body, like speed, athleticism, power, strength? It would be a Nolan Smith. So now they go have both of those guys. You know what I mean? Where you want to develop Nolan Smith as a pass rusher, and you want to develop the frame and functional strength of a Mike Green. I think that back into the 1st round is a good spot for him, because you also get that 5th-year option, especially if he takes off. You don't have to pay him immediately.
Yeah, I'll probably still look, because and this is just a testament to this edge rush class, right? Because you still got a Kyle Kennard out there, right? And some of these other guys that, potentially go Donovan Izuriku. I think that's how you say his name, from Boston College. I just think, I think back into the 1st round, probably first 15, 20 picks of the second round, that's probably going to be the edge rush run, right? Where everybody's going to go grab them an edge rusher in this class, because that's where a lot of those guys are slated. I mean, I don't even think, no, we did have Nick Scarlton go to the Saints. I was about to bring up Nick Scarlton, but he went to the Saints in this draft. But yeah, I think overall it was good, solid mock draft. And it's just one of those things, right, where everything is just kind of, is going to be figuring it out, right? That's why the Senior Bowl in a couple of weeks is going to be so huge and so pivotal, because I think there's a lot of names, even on the Senior Bowl roster. Usually I feel like a lot more people in the draft community are a lot more familiar with these guys. But when you talk about the safety, the cornerbacks, the defensive line, it's still a lot of prospects. I feel like people are still trying to identify and know who they are as players. But I think that's what's going to make this process fun. That's why we continue to say that's what's going to be fun about this. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. On tomorrow's show, we're getting into the Senior Bowl a little bit. We're going to be scouting the quarterbacks that are going down to the Senior Bowl. Jalen Milroe, the best quarterbacks to start off. Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Dylan Gabriel. What do they bring to the table, and what do they need to do in Mobile to help their 2025 NFL draft stock? We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.